Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or evening, depending on when this finds you. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar today. My name is Brandon Tortlett, and I'm with ProWest and Associates. And this webinar is a joint presentation with Esri, and I'm joined by Brent Jones, who's the Industry Manager for Land Records at Esri, and you're going to hear from him in just a moment. So as you see on the screen, our topic today is how do we foster trust between taxpayers and the government using GIS? And before we actually get into the specific Esri solutions that will enable that, we need to set some context around this, or zoom out a bit, if you will. So Brent is going to do that for us here in just a moment. But again, thank you so much for joining. Before we get into any of that, though, in case any of you are wondering, who on earth is ProWest? If you've never heard of us before, here's a tiny snapshot of us. So we are an Esri business partner and a GIS consulting firm. We're based in Minnesota, and we are exclusively GIS and have been for 33 years. Although we do work nationwide with all levels of government, from federal to local, as well as tribal, and some private industry as well, we are mainly known as a specialized Esri business partner with a laser focus on local government and land records. A fun fact, we were actually their 12th business partner ever, and they have thousands of business partners nowadays. So we would be categorized as a services partner or an implementation partner for those that rings a bell for. And we focus on long-term partnerships with our clients, and we truly act as a part of your team. So with that, now that you have a very quick sense of who ProWest is, I'm going to turn things over to Brent Jones to again kind of set the table for the rest of today's discussion. So Brent, I'm going to turn things over to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Brandon. I'm Brent Jones, the Industry Manager for Land Records here at Esri. I'd like to thank ProWest and Brandon specifically for putting this webinar together and the work they do supporting Esri users, and particularly their knowledge of Esri technology. Thanks for inviting me to present. We got something kind of new here on how GIS helps improve public trust and confidence. And I'll present for a few minutes on GIS, the geospatial infrastructure, and solutions, and then what our solutions are. And then I'll turn it over to Brandon, and we'll dig into the details of the Equitable Property Value Hub. To set context here, it's important to think of GIS as part of a geospatial infrastructure. It's comprised of data, analysis capabilities, services, and of course, mapping. Add to that image processing, real-time tracking, and computing infrastructure in the cloud, AI, machine learning, IoT, all of that, put that forms kind of an infrastructure, a geospatial infrastructure. Well, not all of us are GIS professionals, and we want to use these capabilities not in their raw form. So we've developed solution templates that leverage all these capabilities into these configured templates, these solution templates. So what's a solution template? What's required to power it? We have solutions in many areas: utilities, defense and security, business, conservation, many others. In local and state government, we have several solutions. You've probably seen the solutions and dashboards for the coronavirus. Solutions are collections of configurations, apps, data, dashboards, data models, workflows, all set up for specific domains to solve specific problems. In our case, it's land records, tax, and assessment. So there's been a lot going on this year at Esri and Land Records: value analysis, stakeholder, and public engagement. I know all of you work in GIS in some way or another, but the capabilities of the platform have exponentially grown in the past couple of years and will continue to do so. There are tools for managing field appraisers and keeping them safe. There's a new release of the parcel fabric that delivers new efficiencies. And we just did a meetup with ProWest in Renville County. I'm sure that Brandon can get a recording of that to you on the parcel fabric. There's spatial modeling and analysis tools to help you produce better values, identify outliers and data errors. And of course, there's limitless ways to map and visualize your data. Also new this year is a new public engagement solution, Equitable Property Value Hub, designed specifically for assessors' offices. That's what we're here to talk about today. Before we get to the details on that, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the benefits, the overall geospatial infrastructure that GIS brings to assessors. There's a lot of core capabilities in ArcGIS that support assessors. There are countless ways to explore your data and try different types of analysis and modeling like geographic weighted regression, forest-based classification. Your CAMA data can be analyzed and viewed in many new ways. With maps, you can quickly identify outliers and problems in your data. Simple things like a map that shows cost per square foot can uncover anomalies and data issues. You can enrich or geo-enrich your data. This allows you to merge external data sets to supplement your data. There are dozens of useful data sets in the ArcGIS Living Atlas that are available for you to use. They're all curated and they're served up as services that are really easy to use. So you can use and process your own imagery. You can use external imagery, integrate all that with your data, and this is all available in 3D as well as 2D. The key function of the assessor's office is to deliver accurate assessed property values with open and transparent operations. This openness and transparency is critical to maintain public trust and confidence, but the public's expectations are not static. Years ago, the process was to publish the tax roll once per year and make the data available for inspection. Today, the public expects all the data to be online, current, and easy to use. 10 years ago or so, the public began to expect all the data to be available online. Now they expect it to be on their phones. It's challenging to deliver all your data all these ways. So why are these maps and apps for accessing parcel and property information? They're responsive. Responsive means that the technology understands what type of device is connecting to the data. Android, iPhone, iPad, or just a web browser. That means you configure these apps one time and they're available for the public or internally. So you don't have to have an app for each one of the operating systems. Apps for understanding comparable sales, which properties are in the floodplain, and apps for filing appeals, all kinds of apps. If you want more apps, there are app builders, so you can configure and develop your own apps. You don't have to write code to build apps. Oftentimes, separate systems and spreadsheets are maintained to understand the office operations and backlog. With ArcGIS solutions, you can configure dashboards to help you understand the status of your organization at a glance. Dashboards and infographics give you a new way to look at your organization's operations, a new way to look at your data. And through these, and although these are GIS apps, they're not specifically designed for GIS professionals. They're for everyone, and they're easy to set up. We also have solutions to help with business continuity and how to keep your office safe in these COVID times. I mentioned earlier we can enrich or geo-enrich your data with external data sets. These policy maps are part of the ArcGIS geospatial infrastructure. Data such as demographic and enterprise zones can be added to your assessment data. You can look at your assessment neighborhoods in new ways using social vulnerability data from the CDC, eviction data, income, census data. There are dozens of curated data sets you can use. ArcGIS is an enterprise platform, meaning that the core technology supports your entire organization. It enables 3 key systems in your office: the system of record, the system of insight, and the system of engagement. This describes well the value of GIS in the assessor's office. Parcels and ownership and cadastral mapping is the system of record. The system of insight is where you spend a lot of time looking for insights into your data. What is affecting value? Where are the property characteristics changing? The system of insight tells you what's going on out there. And using advanced models, advanced analytical models, and spatial analysis, like geographic weighted regression, maybe kriging, you can see things in your data that you otherwise couldn't see. It allows you to understand the impact of location. You know, in real estate, they say location, location, location. Well, with GIS, you can leverage that power of location. The system of engagement is how we communicate with taxpayers, stakeholders, and other departments. ArcGIS provides the geospatial infrastructure to manage, share, and collaborate. Now let's drill into these 3 aspects a little bit more and how they apply in land administration functions and the assessment functions of valuation, public engagement, and land records. The system of record is improved by the parcel fabric and efficient parcel management. The system of engagement helps improve public trust and confidence and also minimizes in-office visits by taxpayers and land professionals. The system of insight with GIS enables new analysis, visualization, and dashboards. The public's expectations of how government delivers information has evolved and will continue to evolve. The public expects modern web maps and apps, and you want something easy to implement and maintain. Delivering a modern experience improves the public impression of your office and the work you do. With ArcGIS, you can implement a configurable, modern public engagement experience quickly and easily. There are many reasons to improve your engagement with the public, but limiting taxpayers coming into the office during these COVID times will help you keep you and your staff safe. Self-service hubs are a fast way to get there. All right, now I'm going to pass this over to Brandon, and he's going to discuss the Equitable Property Value Hub initiative and drill into some more of the details.
Okay, Brent, you seeing the overview slide?
I am. You look good.
Perfect. Well, let's not go that far. All right. So, bearing in mind all that Brent Jones had to say, a lot of good stuff there. So we're going to transition a little bit. So where we're going to go from here is to first take a look at ArcGIS Hub in general as a platform and what it enables you to do. Okay, so some of you may not have heard of this term until now. So we're going to start there and make sure Hub in general makes sense before we pivot to specifically the ArcGIS Hub Equitable Property Value Initiative. So first things first. So ArcGIS Hub is a part of the Esri Geospatial Cloud, and it's available through ArcGIS Online. So thus it is a software as a service product. You don't have to have your own server to run it on. It will run on the Esri Cloud. It's an easy to configure engagement platform, and it organizes people, data, and tools through information-driven initiatives. It enables you to maximize engagement in any type of organization by improving communication, collaboration, and data sharing. And it enables you to leverage existing data and technology, and enables you to work together with both internal and external stakeholders to advance goals and initiatives. So what does it do more specifically? Let's kind of break this down. Data is critical to decision making, and Hub can share authoritative data that is used to help make better decisions. You can create as many websites as you need to with no coding required. So there's drag and drop components known as cards. You can incorporate your organization's branding, your logos and whatnot to match the existing websites that you have. And again, through it, you can share data, maps, and apps to engage the community. Give purpose to your data and align it with your organization's top priorities by organizing around goals and initiatives. And this fits with any real-world issue or challenge, which we're going to look at a couple examples of real-world issues and challenges here in just a second. And in terms of enabling collaboration, you can create teams of staff, external members, or both. And you can also invite trusted members to collaborate within your Hub site as well. So it's not just a one-way piece of communication. Let's inspire some action. So the idea here is let's drive engagement by sharing a goal to focus on and ways to participate towards that goal. You can share information, charts, maps, and stories and text, and make it easier for everyone to have a shared understanding of what that goal is and context around that goal. And lastly, you can benefit from a full system, and by which we mean ArcGIS Hub includes everything that you need. So it has integrated event management, and you can do surveys and other types of solutions, and all incorporated into Hub. And also work done in Hub can feed back into your organization's operational systems. So without further ado, I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Now, these are not the main thing that we're here to look at today, but a couple of local examples to kind of put flesh on the bone of what I was just saying. So here we have an ArcGIS Hub site from Peoria, Illinois. And the initiative or the focus around this hub happens to be opioid awareness, because it's something their community was struggling with and wanted a way to address that. So you'll notice right away, it is an information-rich, kind of visually engaging destination page. And there's a number of ways to engage with the information that is here. Okay, so we have numbers put behind, how many cases are there and how many people, pass away from opioid overdose and whatnot. And a lot of text that just simply explains in plain English, what are we doing here? So our vision, what this site is about, our mission. You continue scrolling and you get things like, how did we get here? So what has led to this? Unemployment, overprescribing. And then we transition kind of logically to, and how are we doing? So we're monitoring the effectiveness of prevention and so forth. So right away, you're presented with a bunch of statistics. Again, put numbers behind it. How many of these are we talking about? How much of this is going on? So you have kind of an information dashboard with key performance indicators and statistics. And then this one happens to have a number of tabs, so you can actually look at rates of administration of the drug and or the remedy rather, broken down by, apologize for that, broken down by year, 2019, 2018, and also the change. Okay, so visual, spatial ways to represent the data and the information and other ways as well. And then you continue scrolling. Here's some health advice from experts, and here's information resources. And this could link to other sources of information that you might have, other text. And then you continue scrolling. Given this is an Esri product, you'd expect to see some maps and applications, web mapping applications, and just as you would expect. So here are proactive solutions and things like, where can I get treatment? Where can I drop off some of these if I have them? Some community partners, where are they located? And I'll come back to those in just a second, but if we keep scrolling, here's local updates. So we have the Twitter feed with the strategic plan that was just released, and so on and so forth. And down at the bottom of the page, then of course we have contact information for the organization in question. So here's how you reach us. And then if I was to go into one of these, again, where can I get treatment? So this is an embedded web mapping application. We're still on the same hub page. And this just simply shows, if I'm in a given location, if I go to this location here and I can give a number of radius of a certain number of miles and see the locations that are within that distance that I specify, and I can play around with this. So I could get information, and the user stepped into this spot and said, yes, I want to get this information on where can I get some treatment for someone that I know and so forth. So these types of web applications are built into the site. Switching gears here a little bit, here's another local government example that would be a bit more probably near and dear to the hearts of those of you that are attending here today, because this is a local government, a county in Minnesota, and it is their land records hub site. So pretty similar to our actual topic today, and another good example. And so again, it says we're maintaining accurate and current information, et cetera, et cetera. We have some mapping applications right here at the top. So here's a tax parcel viewer. And if I were to continue scrolling, there's just a number of different resources for how do I look up plats or school or look up tax sales, things like that. And again, that all important bit of just information, it's an informational page. So how does managing land records work at, in this case, Pope County, Minnesota? And this could be other text that you might want, but it communicates essentially, here's what we do, here's how we do it, here's what you need to know. And then typically there's going to be links to open data. So if you're the type that just needs the data itself, I just need the tax parcels or boundaries or soils information or whatever the case may be, these are links right to the data itself. So information, links to data, links to other content, and then again, the ability to engage. And that's not in these sites, but this kind of gives you an overall flavor. Okay, so that should be your takeaway from what I've just shown, an overall flavor for what does a hub site do. And this county in particular actually has other areas within their hub site where you can get information about elections, tax sales, community development, or they call community pride, and so on and so forth. Okay, so very quickly, those are a couple of local examples of just hub sites in the general sense. So I'm gonna go back to my PowerPoint. So now that you have at least a little bit of a sense of what does Hub do for you, now we'll actually switch gears and get into the thing we are here to talk about, which, as I've mentioned several times, is the ArcGIS Hub Equitable Property Value Initiative, also known as EPV. Sometimes we just use the short term EPV. So what is the EPV? It is a configuration of ArcGIS Hub Premium. I'll explain what the Premium is later in today's presentation. So it's a configuration, a template of the types of sites that you just saw. And it enables you to rethink the way that you connect and communicate with the public and other government entities specifically on property value. And really the bottom line for you, if you're in the assessor's office or you work alongside them, is that with the ArcGIS Hub Equitable Property Value Initiative, your ability to increase public trust and confidence in your office is now available. Okay, so let's drill a little bit further. What does EPV offer? What does it include? It delivers the following. So increased public awareness, improved public and government access to property information, improved public understanding of assessment and property tax processes. It delivers focused information products for taxpayers, real estate professionals, and property owners. Easy communication of upcoming events and notices to citizens. And a full process for responding to appeals while also educating taxpayers. So let's drill in even a bit more. So to be more specific about what you get or what is included. So the EPV includes the Hub initiative itself, which we're going to look at the actual template. The Hub site application, which is that highly configurable web application that resides in ArcGIS Online in the Esri cloud. You also get an ArcGIS Hub community, which essentially, for now, I'll just explain it as that is the community of users that you get, which enables you to empower the public to actually take part in your site. So it's not just a one-way communication. They can have a login to be part of this online community, be part of discussions, contribute ideas, sign up for events, and so forth. And last and certainly not least, this is it also includes an ArcGIS Online organization. Okay, and so for the technical folks in the room, just to say too, all of these items get created in your ArcGIS Online organization under the ownership of the user who creates it, and the items display as content in the My Content section, and the groups get created as well. So it's a self-contained deployment, all in ArcGIS Online. So we're going to break this down in terms of what does this thing look like, and we're going to switch into a real live example here in just a second, but to give you a preview of the layout of this thing and kind of some of the rationale or the structure behind it. So at the very top of the page, you're going to see the header and the purpose. What is the purpose of this page? And this really mirrors the two general examples that I just showed as well, so you'll see that kind of recurring theme. So what is the purpose? Why are we here? And then some analysis or key performance indicators. Put numbers behind it, whatever the topic is. In this case, it's property value in a given county. So we have some background. So this is the idea of how do we value property? Give folks a general information resource. They can click on the link and they're taken to an explanatory document. This is how we do things. This is how this process works. It kind of demystifies it a little bit for folks that just simply want more information. You're then presented with a tools section. So what is my tax liability? So it's a tax liability calculator for, if you're buying a new home or a property, you can put in some numbers and actually get at least an estimate of that. Then there are, of course, as you'd expect, the actual maps and apps, and we're going to look at those in more detail here in just a second. But that's kind of what you'd expect from a location-based company. So we have those, and then if you keep going on the page, you have links to the data itself. So remember, I said this kind of mirrors the examples that I just showed. So I just want to link right to the sales information or the tax parcels or the foreclosure information, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're a research organization, so just give me the data. That's where you get that. Further down, you have a calendar, so upcoming events. So maybe there's a property auction or a tax workshop, other events that your organization may be offering for the public, and you want to have a calendar to let people know what those events are, what dates they are, give them the ability to register and get into these events and so forth. And collaborate. So here's how you get involved. So follow the organization to get updates. You can also use this to get in and create a user and become part of the online community. And because your organization then has control over this, you can see who the users are, and certain people you can actually promote to other groups that they can actually talk with you as well. So it all starts with the collaboration section. There's a contact and contribute section as well. So how do I get a hold of my assessor? How do I start an appeal process and so forth? So that's how you actually take action. And then certainly last but not least, we have the organization and contact information at the very bottom. Notice that that lies at the very bottom of kind of the flow of the page. So you've given the public every opportunity to answer their own question, get their own resource, and get the data that they need and so forth. And if they still have a question that none of those resources have answered, then they have a way to contact you by phone and email and so forth. And really, not to overlook this, but this is really important in this day and age, because putting all these resources in the hands of the public makes them more likely to, skip the trip to the courthouse, but try to get their information and get answers to their questions remotely. So anytime we can do that, I think we'd all agree it would be it's a very good thing. So as promised, I'm going to show you an example of everything that I just showed you as far as the schematic. This is a real live example. So here we have the Equitable Property Value, the EPV hub site deployed at a county in Minnesota. So this is a live site. And so just to kind of flesh things out. So again, it's that information-rich destination page where our focus of this page happens to be property value in Polk County, Minnesota. And so there's text here explaining, property taxes. This is why it matters. This is what it gets used for. Put numbers behind all of that. So paint a picture about, in this case, a fairly rural county in Minnesota. So number of single family homes, agricultural, and so forth, total parcels valued. And so we keep going from there and we get, how do we value property? So these are links to information sources with the State Department of Revenue, how the assessor estimates your market value in case you've ever want to know. How does that number, or where does that number come from? Here's a way for you to answer your own question, or at least get some information about it. And again, tax liability calculator. And it gives a little explanatory text. The nice thing is you're not going to step into any map or application or any of the tools without having a pretty clear sense of why you're clicking on the button and what you're hoping to get out of that information. And then we continue scrolling down. We have the property applications themselves. And again, access detailed property information, find comparable sales and so forth. There's text behind everything. And then we keep scrolling, and I'm going to come back to these in just a second as well. We continue scrolling, we get access to the data itself. So this would be links to the relevant data. The data is relevant for our property tax, property value focus within the county. So relevant sale or data sets rather being parcels, sales, foreclosures, appeals, and so forth, or whatever set of information you would want to release to the public. We have a community events section. So this site is very new. We don't have any events, or this client does not have any events portrayed yet. But again, like I said a moment ago, these would be workshops or relevant deadlines, or maybe you have community events that pertain to this that you just want to let people know about when they are, and also give them the ability to get involved. So the calendar piece accomplishes that objective. Here we have a get involved, so we can follow. I actually have clicked on follow, so that's why it says that. Stay informed and learn more about key property valuation dates. So you'd get notifications and so forth. That's where that community users piece comes in. We're almost to the bottom, so it's quite a long page. Lots of information, lots of different ways. If you just want numbers, maybe you want to look at a map, there's something for everyone, I guess is maybe a good way to say it. So do you have a question about your property value? Here's how you contact the local assessor with an email or just some information, a phone number. And also here's how we start the appeal process. And so it explains very clearly. Do you feel that your property is not being appraised fairly, et cetera, et cetera? So how to appeal your value and classification. Again, this is a link to sort of a guidance document from the State Department of Revenue. And the start button here actually starts up the process itself. And so, for instance, if I click on that, this brings up a separate mapping application where the idea is you would find your property in question. And so there's even a little guidance screen here that says this map can be used for, find your property and start the process. I could either just navigate on the map, or I could put in a parcel ID number or an address, however you want to find your property. And then let's say, for instance, if I wanted to start an appeal process for this parcel right here. And so I get a little bit of information, parcel ID, address, and a appeal this tax assessment for this property button, and click to start. And if I were to click on this, I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds on any of these just for sake of time, but if I were to click on this, I would come up with a survey form, a survey 123 form that enables me to put my information in. Of course, it would pre-populate what parcel are we talking about, an address and so forth. And then you would fill out the rest of this with some information as far as stating your case or your pertinent details. And then that would be received by the county assessor with a way to then receive those incoming results and work through the appeals process that way. So you give folks a ready-made way to do that and just doing it electronically, spatially right here in the map. And then here we are at the bottom of the page. We do have the information about the name of the assessor, the contact information for the assessor as well. Again, at the very bottom, after all these resources are put in front of the member of the public. So I'm going to scroll back up here and go through a couple of the specific mapping applications. So I'm going to start with the most basic one, which is the tax parcel viewer. So again, explanatory text. The tax parcel viewer can be used to access property tax and assessment information. Plain and simple. And so we launch this guy. And here again, we could search by parcel ID number or address or pan and zoom, whatever you prefer. And each application has its own splash screen that just reminds folks this is what this is for. To get started, search for a property or explore the map. You click through and here you go. So just because I like to do it this way, I'm just going to sort of zoom in here. And you could turn on some aerial imagery layers and whatnot, but I'm going to kind of skip some of those steps for just a moment. So let's say I'm going to zoom in and pick, let's see, a particular residential parcel. And so what I've got here then is a litany of information about the particular parcel that I clicked on. You know what, just to make this look a little bit more. There we go. And so for this particular parcel, I click on this and my pop-up window gives an array of information. So this is perhaps similar to sites you've already got of this sort. Again, just showing the public parcel ID, address, taxpayer information, owner information, what school district is it in, what's the legal description, et cetera, et cetera. This also happens to have a tax summary, which gives the user the ability to download a nice formatted parcel report that gives all this information if you wanted to print it out or just simply export it as a take and go document, if you will. This one also happens to have a link to recorded documents. So if I click on this guy, what this is actually doing is it's telling the public, okay, here is of course I pick one that's only got one document, but I think you get the idea. Here are the documents that the county recorder in Polk County, Minnesota has on record for that particular parcel. And so up comes a list. Here's a bunch of them. So you got mortgage satisfaction, warranty deed, and so forth. And so these will all then take you to each document. At least it will take you to the document in the recorder software, the land records management software that the recorder is using to keep record of that as well. So I'm really kind of going down off on a tangent here, but these are examples of the array of land records types of information. And anything that can be tied to a parcel. You could also include permits or things like that. Whatever can be tied to a parcel, and you'd get that and link all those items and all those sources of information to the parcel itself. So that's the tax parcel viewer. And it is but one of many applications that we're getting here from our EPV Hub site. I will also click on the tax distribution. So this is a little bit different notion where we're still looking at parcels, but we're actually going to portray to the public how those tax dollars are being allocated. Okay. So let's say I, again, search for an address, or to skip that, I will just click on any given parcel. And I don't know how well that's coming through on your screen, but what that gives is the total tax for this parcel that you clicked on and how that is broken down amongst various entities. So the city that it resides in, which is Crookston, the county that it resides in, the school district, and so forth, you know, whatever the entities would be in your case. And so this makes the information more transparent and available to the public. So not just the value, but the tax and where is that going and how is that broken down? A lot of this echoes what Brent said a few minutes ago. We can also do sales comp finder. So that would look for comparable sales. And I'm going to recap these in just a second. For a given location. So let's just say I'm going to place a location right here. Again, I could search for an address instead. And so by default, it gives me all sales within 1 mile of my specified location. Again, I could have picked the address of a property that I was interested in acquiring. And that will simply break out the list of all the property sales, all represented as point locations. And again, I could fiddle with this if I want, and I can also filter. So don't just show me all of the sales, show me the sales between a certain amount and a certain amount, or the year built, so between 1950 and 1980 or whatever the case may be, or what type of residence is it, or what type of property is it? It's a single family and so forth. And again, these can all be tailored to whatever your settings or your choices might be. The sale date between this day and today, so maybe instead of between 2015, make it in the last month or the last year or whatever the case may be. You may have some other descriptions as well. Okay, so was it a bank sale or whatever kind of customized settings you have? These would come from any given county if you had something unique you wanted to, as far as how you filter the sales results. So again, comparable sales, a certain distance from a location, and then filter it however you wanted to. And then from any point in this process, if you were to begin to filter these down, you could hit apply and also export out the list of property sales. And all of these applications will scale to different form factors. That's the piece that Brent talked about, as far as depending on what kind of device they're using, it will adjust and work on that screen size. So not going to go through all of these. Just again, I want to make sure we have enough time for questions and get through our material today. But that kind of gives you a flavor for the different maps and apps that are available, again, on this EPV Hub site. And as I just ran through, again, that sits in the larger context of the full page itself. Okay, so I'm going to drop back into my PowerPoint and just kind of give you a recap of everything you just saw and kind of break those out more specifically. So the maps and apps we just looked at, I'm going to go through them one at a time. So the tax parcel is the one I showed first, and that again gives access to tax parcels and related assessment data, related parcel data, and so on and so forth. The residential comp finder, that's going to find comparable sales that might have certain desirable traits relative to a given location that you might be interested in. The tax distribution, and we also looked at, so that's where we review property tax dollars and how they're being distributed, and of course what the tax dollars are as well. Floodplain inquiry, we didn't click on that one, but that is where you locate parcels that are impacted by floodplain boundaries. And then you have the property tax assessment appeal. And so, and that was further down on the page, and that enables you to file a request for the review of a property assessment. And again, you can do that spatially, geographically, and so forth. Then there is the tax liability calculator. So you can calculate your estimated tax liability based on a couple of digits or numbers that you put in. And open data itself. So free and open data that's used by officials to ensure fair and equitable property value, foreclosures, appeals, or whatever information you want to put out there. So if you're looking at this thinking, well, then where does all that information come from, or what is required? Because of course, this is all your authoritative data. So this is not something that Esri or ProEst is providing. This comes right to your data sources. So this slide kind of speaks for itself, and I won't force reading all through this. The gist of this is that for any of the applications that we showed and that I ran through the list, you would need the corresponding data. So for instance, essentially all of them require parcels. If you wanted to do the residential comp finder, you would need the appropriate sales and CAMA data. For the tax distribution, you would need the tax distribution data, of course, from any source that you might have. As far as what it takes to get to glean these pieces of information out of the various systems that you have, that's where the discussion takes place, as far as looking at what systems that you have now, who your CAMA provider is and your tax provider are, and so on and so forth. And then we source that information from whatever you've got. This just gives you a sense of that. So for instance, for the property tax assessment appeal, of course, you would need the form questions, right? What do you want that form to look like? And then the ability to receive it as an electronic submission. And also, I just want to briefly mention too, so as a kind of a noteworthy add-on, or as a side note to the EPV Hub, which is the main thing we're here to talk about today, there is such thing as the property sales dashboard, and that would definitely make for a good addition to the EPV. So it is a configuration of ArcGIS dashboard, and it provides access to authoritative sales data in tax or other sales systems, wherever you might have that. And so because it is a configuration of ArcGIS dashboards, That is, of course, part of ArcGIS Online, or it can run an ArcGIS Enterprise for those who know what those are. And it enables you to find comparable sales in a neighborhood that are similar or that have desirable traits. And you can provide access to data in a way that community leaders or the public can make informed, equitable value decisions and that are fair and transparent. So it's really about getting information out there. For sake of time, I'm just going to do a screenshot of this, and we'll have links to these resources in the post-webinar email, but just to kind of give you a sense of it. So when I say dashboard, it kind of gives this look and feel. So we have a map in the middle, and we have various panes that are geared and oriented around the thing that we're here to talk about. So again, key performance indicators, or just raw data would be a better way to say that. Total sales, total sale amount, average sale amount. And then we have the sales data all represented as both the trends over time graph that you see at the bottom, and then simply all of the, at least off the bat, it's all of the sales data for the specified time represented as point locations, and then all the sales themselves are represented on the right in a simple linear form or linear listing. And then all of the stuff you see on the left is, as you would expect, the ability to sort from there and to really narrow down your search, right? So you might actually engage with the map and zoom in on a spot, let's say, but you might also filter for what's on the left. So again, with all of these tools, there's always that explanatory text. So the property sales dashboard can be used by the general public, real estate agents, and appraisers to find comparable sales and related property information. Adjust the filter to refine the results. So it tells the user, here's how to use this thing. And it does say, by the way, if you want to download open data, the data itself, you can get that through our open data portal. So you can sort again by sale date, sale amount, personal property amount, property class, local tax district, school district, and so on. And then as you begin to whittle down your search with any of these filter elements, it would dynamically update that in the listing. So that would only show the sales that filter or that correspond to the filter specifications that you put in here. So a very good kind of quick, intuitive, web-based way to put property sales information out there. And certainly this would be a pretty compelling addition to, or a piece of an EPV hub deployment at your organization if you were interested. So definitely bear this in mind. All right, we are wrapping up and getting close to the end. So we hinted at this earlier, so we wanted to flesh this out a little bit. When we talk about ArcGIS Hub, it is available at 2 license levels. Okay, so there is basic and there's premium. So the basic version or flavor of this is what is included with ArcGIS Online. So that enables the site creation capabilities we mentioned earlier with no coding and drag and drop, and also sharing of data. So essentially the first 2 sites that I showed you are examples of Hub Basic sites. The premium, in addition to all of that, what the premium flavor of ArcGIS Hub adds is the ability to, well, you have additional features and capabilities. So that enables you to work with internal and external teams of users. So community users, those event calendars we looked at on the example from Polk County, the ability to communicate and also accessing secure content. So content only available to those that have an assigned community user. And again, those could be members of the public, but you can also promote them to be within trusted groups that you can actually communicate with your staff. Maybe it's a nonprofit or a research organization or a contractor or some such thing. So that's the difference, is the ability to have those initiatives, both the templates themselves that can be more easily shared, and then also the events, the calendars, the ability to have 2-way communication, and so on and so forth with the community users. And so the ArcGIS Hub initiative is a premium instance because it requires those pieces to truly enable all the functionality that we just looked at. All right, we are doing well on time, so I think we'll have plenty of time for questions. But as we wrap up here, right about now, you might be thinking, you know, this all sounds well and good, but how might my organization take a first step to dig deeper, to find out some more details, maybe figure out what would be needed for my organization to get this set up, to get set up everything that you just saw? And the good news is that there's simply one website to go to. And in fact, I'm going to kind of give you some time to write this down if you'd like, or go ahead and pull it up in your web browser, whatever you choose to. It will also be included in the post-webinar email, that is. But you can call it up now if you'd like. And that is proestgis.com/EPV. Again, proestgis.com/EPV. EPV. And when you get there, you'll come to this page. We have a little screenshot of what it looks like. So I wanted to clarify while you're calling that up, the reason that you're hearing from us at ProWest right now is that Esri has teamed with us to deliver software and implementation services for the ArcGIS Hub Equitable Property Value Initiative, the EPV. Because at the end of the day, access to technical resources, whether it be technical skills or software, can vary. And so if you choose to engage with us, and we hope you'll consider doing so, just so you know what will come from that, will be a quick assessment of your organization's goals and capabilities, and that in turn will determine the best strategy to modernize your assessor's office's public engagement strategy. And so again, all you need to do to get started is to go to the above URL, the above website, and you're going to get a bunch of different information sources there if you choose to go there, and we hope you will. So it has all the resources that you'll need, and you'll have contact information if you'd like to engage with us. You'll have a link to a very nice ebook that has been produced that actually has all the information that you've just seen. That ebook summarizes all of that, and again, you get to that from the page I have here on the screen. And so we highly encourage you to take a look at the ebook. It's a great resource. We'll also be sending out, again, I said earlier, a post-webinar email with links to the examples that you've seen. And also some of these have been copied into the chat window, I believe. And so some of you may already be playing around with some of these, which is great. But you'll have all those same things coming at the email after the webinar. So again, please visit prowestgis.com/EPV, and that is really all the information that you need, a single page to get all of that. All right, so with that, we still have plenty of time. Let's go ahead and see what kinds of questions that we have.
Yeah, we got one in the question window. Is Hub Premium an add-on to an enterprise account, or is it part of it?
That's a good question. So that's is the question, is an add-on to an enterprise agreement, perhaps?
I think some enterprise agreements include it and some don't. So I think you have to look at your specific agreement.
Yep. And you might, when in doubt, you might want to talk to your Esri account team. And if you don't know who that is, certainly Brent can help with that. We can help with that, and make sure you get the right answer.
Okay, here's another one. Does any of your demo app require parcel fabric? And for ArcGIS Hub, this Hub initiative, no.
Yep, that's an excellent question, though.
Yep. Small government EAs, do they offer it as an add-on? I think that's a yes. That's an add-on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got a couple other ones here that were sent to me directly. Do I need Enterprise Server for Equitable Property Value Hub?
Right, so you do not. In order to run that thing, the Equitable Property Value Hub initiative does run in ArcGIS Online in the Esri cloud. So so you can, if there are ways to source the authoritative data that goes into the apps and serves as the content for that, the application itself, that runs in ArcGIS Online. So you wouldn't need your own server. There wouldn't be an Equitable Property Value software piece that you would need to install on your server, no.
Right, so it's pretty fast to stand up because it's a SaaS offering, right? Good, thanks. Here's another question that was sent to me directly. I've made a lot of my own web maps. Can I use the maps that I've already made in this hub?
I believe the answer to that would be yes, because so the template would still need to be configured, but the underlying web maps that are coming through in some of those examples that I showed wouldn't necessarily need to be created brand new from scratch to empower this. Some of the content might need to be added, so depending on what layers you have in your map, but if in terms of the base map that you might have and symbology and that sort of thing, yeah, to my way of thinking, that should be able to be carried over. It just could be that we need to add some additional data to really make the content show up.
Okay, here's another one. Does your app use file geodatabase?
Yeah, so it doesn't even really get as specific as the type of the flavor of geodatabase that you're storing the data that is in. So the data itself could be hosted in ArcGIS Online. It could be published as a service, whatever the case may be. But the EPV hub template wouldn't really have any way of knowing, or wouldn't affect its performance or capability of functioning if you're storing it as a file versus personal versus enterprise geodatabase. I can't think, and Brent, unless you can think of any other reason why that would impact.
No. It's important to note that you hook up your data via services is one way to configure this, and where those services come from, whether they come from your CAMA system or your tax system or your recording system, it doesn't matter. Okay, here's another one, Brandon. Could the hub be configured to create a template for tracking which parcels are up for assessing in a quintile assessment plan, with identifying new altered parcels that have changed since the last time an assessment was performed in that area? Okay, I'm gonna say that a different way. This is obviously from an area that needs to visit their parcels every 5 years, and we've seen some configurations of ArcGIS field for coordinating those types of field visits. And this would be setting it up so you would look at the CAMA data to see if any data has changed since the last time assessment was performed. So that actually looks like a pretty interesting use of putting these pieces together. But I will say the short answer to your question is yes. And maybe that's something we discuss with our solutions team, of maybe helping with the configuration of that. Certainly you guys could help with the configuration of that.
Yeah, let's actually zoom out on that question. That makes a good point that I don't think we emphasized. So I kind of did a little schematic, a run through of what's included in this initiative, but we wouldn't want folks to think in terms of that's the only thing that could be on this hub site. Think of it this way: when I showed those initial examples of Peoria with the opioid and Pope County land records, those are hub sites that have evolved over time, particularly the Pope one. And so they may have started off with just a couple of maps and a couple of KPIs and a couple of snippets of data. And then as users see these and ask great questions like the one you just got, Brent, that spurs a discussion. We talked to, as you said, talk to solutions, talk to your consultant, and next thing you know, you now have additional things added to that. There are hub sites out there that have tons of content, more than any that I've shown today, and those didn't happen overnight. So think of this as a flexible platform. The only point to take away as far as what I delineated, what's included, the different maps and apps that I broke out, the only thing to know about that is what is included with this initiative out of the box. You already have those, and so there would need to be some consultation and some services to set those up. And then the question is, what in addition to that? So maybe you want the sales dashboard added to that, or something like what the question just asked about, as far as how do I visualize properties or parcels that are up for revisit or up for renewal. And those could also be internal applications as opposed to just public facing as well.
All right, very good. Well, that's the last question. We'll go gone here to see if there's anybody gonna sneak one last one in there.
And while you're looking, Brent, I just wanted to emphasize for those that have been on for the duration and have not gone over to the chat window, I hope you have, but in case you have not, the whole time that I was talking, so my associates put in links to everything that I was just showing. So if you haven't played around with those, go right ahead. So we had the link to the Peoria opioid hub site, that's there. And then the Pope County, Minnesota land records hub site is after that. You can also look to say that try It Live site, the EPV test site. And then I did include the EPV hub site of Polk County, Minnesota, or my colleague did. And last but not least, the actual site that we looked at the end, again, that prosgis.com/EPV. So if you'd like to just click on those as well, you can certainly do that. Some of you may already be playing around with it as we speak, which would be great.
All right, Brandon, well, thanks for the opportunity to present with you. I think it was a pretty good presentation.
Yeah, we hope you all got something out of it. We appreciate people taking time out of their busy schedules to join us here today. So again, be on the lookout for the webinar that will include links to all of this. And we hope that you got something out of that, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
All right.
Great, and thanks so much, Brent.
All right, we'll see you.
Yep, take care, everybody.